Chandrashekar, CEO at JGI Schools, who will be moderating this panel. Today on our panel, we have a fantastic set of school leaders and policy makers discussing their perspectives on this relevant and pertinent technology-oriented topic. So you can see all of us have gathered here to take away the simple do's and don'ts of implementing a policy on technology in our schools. And I will assure you, on behalf of this panel, we'll do our best to our truest capacity to give you a simple list of do's and don'ts as you go forward. Now that ensures that we will bring in our experience, case studies, or anecdotes from our own schools and bring it in front of you so that you can take away as well as learn from those experiments and experience. Now, the organizers have clearly set a mandate for us, and I'm going to pull out few words so that you get a context of this conversation. We have a context of establishing and sustaining a professional learning culture using technology. How can we align our technology strategy to our schools? What are the technical and security considerations we need to keep in mind when we are implementing such a strategy? How to identify workload implications in the EdTech strategy. And last but not the least, as I mentioned earlier, the do's and don'ts for school leaders who are developing, communicating, and implementing EdTech strategy. Now, joining me on this panel today is a set of school leaders and policy makers, as I said, who will be contributing their perspectives to the conversation. So allow me to quickly introduce these power-packed school leaders, and then we open up the panel discussion. Joining me is Mrs. Debika Chatterji, Director, JBCN International School. Welcome to you, Mrs. Chatterji. Next is Ms. Shalini Jaiswal, Director, Mapplebear, South Asia. Welcome, Ms. Shalini. Mrs. Poonam Arora, Senior Principal, Bombay, Cambridge International School. Welcome to you.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning. Mrs. Anupama Ramachandra, Principal, Delhi Public School, Electronic City, Bengaluru. Welcome.
A very warm good morning to all of you.
Mrs. Gayathri Loganathan, Principal, Hiranandani Upscale School. Welcome to you, Mrs. Gayathri.
A warm welcome to everyone.
Thank you. Mrs. Annabelle Villamarin, Principal, Lancers International School. Welcome to you, Mrs. Annabelle.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you.
And Mr. Kanishk Pandey, Head of Partner Development at Apar Technologies. Welcome, Mr. Kanishk.
Thank you, Chandrashekar. Good morning, everyone. Hi.
Morning. Thank you. All right. So as I was speaking, let's talk about education technology leadership in K-12 schools. And before we get started, I was having the chat with all my panelists on the sidelines of this, and we all are coming from a place where our schools have started to open up from the last 2 months. So we know what it is when we talk of hybrid mode of schooling and education. So we'll keep that in mind and discuss. My first question to Mrs. Shalini will be on how can we establish technology as a key player in our schools today? So your experience, and we can take it forward. Yeah.
Thank you, Chandrashekar. Yeah, technology has become very important in our lives, and especially in the seeing the past 2 years, it has become an integral part of all our schools. We as schools, stakeholders, the teachers also have innovated, learned new things, and implemented it in a very beautiful way. When we talk about technology in schools, and I'm not talking about just the present situation, but how things would go forward as we take it, because obviously we are going to come back to normalcy, as we are limping back towards it. Schools will have to look at technology in the longer run. And the way we look at technology in the longer run is in 2 ways. What I look at is, one, as a school, the policy. Why do I want to use technology? For what reasons I want to use technology? It should be intentional rather than just saying, okay, I have these apps or I use these, platforms, but is it helping the students is very, very important. So the use of technology has to be intentional. It has to with the teachers, we should know why we are going to, what we are going to do with that, what platforms or what areas, what we're going to use. Something like, if I give you an example of, use of, it's about, building relationships, building what kind of intent, basically pedagogy, or what I'm going to choose. Is it interactive? Is it engaging? That's what is very important. So sometimes if technology is used just to kind of send messages, or, maybe give a video to the children, or just let them do their work, that's not there. So when we talk about Maple Bear, the use is very, very intentional. For what reasons I'm going to use for students at various age levels. Like if it's a kindergarten child, the teacher may use technology for assessment. It works very well. Or I may use use it for virtual field trips, where my children now have access to zoos across the world or museums across the world. But as I move forward to elementary or, middle school, I may use it for research. I may help children understand the importance of technology, how to keep themselves safe. I will bring them to bigger issues of plagiarism, or, how to research what websites are safe. How do you, from the information, figure out which is true information? There are a lot of information available. How do you siphon that information? So then it becomes more intentional with children, and what are the do's and don'ts of technology as you grow up, because children should understand how do they keep themselves safe, what are digital footprints. When you visit various areas, how do you leave those digital footprints, what you should be kind of more aware of. That's for the child. And when, as a school, we develop a plan which is more intentional, which is directed for the student, but obviously done by the teachers and the staff, it kind of goes a long way in helping children actually make maximal use of technology. So that's what I would start with initially.
What and where and why are we using it all plays a big role. So let me go to Mrs. Debika Chatterji here, and I want to, Madam, pick your mind on one particular question, which is how do we establish a sustainable professional learning culture now that technology is an integral part of education? So how do we do that? Your take on this.
Thank you very much for that question, and good morning to everybody who is here. I think what Ms. Shalini said really resonates with everything that I think about technology. It is it's an aid, and it is a resource. It's a tool that, like any other, it's become bigger than everything else that we have ever used. However, it is still a resource. And how to sustain a professional learning culture to support effective and efficient use of technology, I would say it has to be a part of the learning that happens in our schools. We are schools that believe that not just our children, but all of us need to be lifelong learners. And it has become very, very easy in these times. I think that is one of the gifts of COVID, that we have suddenly realized that the whole world is available to us. We can create learning communities, not just for our students, but we can create learning communities which involve teachers from different parts of the world. We can access libraries from all over the world. There are programs that are available which we can be a part of. Members of various organizations are opening their doors, and a lot of this is free of charge. And there is a whole lot of enhanced collaboration which is available so that teachers can be better professionals in this particular time. And I think it is the responsibility of all our organizations to create that bit of time for our teachers and to help them use appropriate technology so that it continues to be a valuable resource even during hybrid learning that we will practice, I think, for a few more months before we are back to the normal world. I also think that we need to pay special attention to make certain that the security concerns, safety concerns are upmost in the minds of our teachers when they are dealing with technology. And a lot of training needs to go towards that. Technology can empower all teachers, and we can become the designers of our own learning experiences, just the way we have individualized learning plans for our students. I think teachers can go on their own path of discovery, on their own path of professional development. And that is a great thing that we have received in these times. We can become great educators who use the best tools that are available.
Fantastic. I think I take your point here that it is a resource. World is your playing field today, thanks to technology. It's a great leveler in that context where each one of us can start afresh, but at the same time stand at the same place, and it enhances collaboration. Well, for viewers, so far we have covered at least one do and one don't from both Ms. Shalini and Mrs. Debika's perspectives. One is the do is get your use and intent right. That's very important to implementing technology. And two, the don'ts is do not keep it standalone. Do not treat technology in isolation. You got to integrate it with your teaching and learning, whether it is inside the classroom, outside the classroom, but integrate it. I think that's how we take forward. That also brings me to the next point, but I want to ask this question to the viewers. If you are having any concerns about safety of technology, this is the time to put it in the chat window so that we will take that for discussions in the panel. So go ahead and put those concerns on safety in the chat window. Now let me come to Ms. Gayathri here. And Mrs. Gayathri, the question here is, I'm kind of building from what our previous speakers have spoken. How do we align? If you have a technology policy in a school, and I think we should all have one going forward, how can we look at aligning that into the day-to-day working culture and also the working processes inside our organization? Your takes on it.
Thank you, Chandrashekar. Yes, I think Ms. Shalini has already spoken, few lines about how important it is to make a policy when you, go along with the usual virtual field that we are working today. Even now when we're talking about it, we are not very sure how safe we are in this platform. Right? This is how, and today's policy definitely had to be reviewed tomorrow. That's how it is in today's world. Because a policy earlier, when we make for an IT or an ICT class, would have been workable for at least for a 2-year or a 3-year period. But now the faster we are moving in, we have to review it in probably in another 3 to 4 months, because the lot of apps that's working in and what is the terms and the policies that we are clicking on without even reading it most of the times, we are agreeing to it. And then later at the end of it, not only the students, but also sometimes it comes as a catcher for the teachers, which is becoming, a silent criminal, I would call it as, which we have to be very well aware as leaders. That puts a lot of accountability as a school leader for us to look into every single step that we are moving forward when we are looking into using the online platforms. It becomes a little easier when I'm talking about in the high school. At least students are aware of what HTTPS means, what HTTP means, all that. But when you're doing it for a middle school or a primary school, then it becomes very, very tedious, especially last year when we were using the platforms on the online. We were not aware how students are using it. Are they using a second window? And what are they viewing on it? So those are the, it sounds a smaller challenge, but it was a huge challenge. Sometimes we really don't know what's going on the other side of it. So keeping that way, because in our schools, we usually go on with research on these platforms, which is an integral part with an international school. We use a lot of online platforms. Though it was in process, still I would say when we moved on to a virtual platform, it was a challenge for anybody, including our teachers and the leaders. Since it was not only the students and the parents who were catching it up with, it was the parents who were on the other end. Some of them were from the IT field who were technically sounding, letting us know, ma'am, this won't work, ma'am, this will work. It was building up a pressure to the education members, I would call. But then I think we are overcoming it, and we had overcome a lot, I would say. But then, yes, there is a lot to more. Every single day, it's a learning process for me. Even when I go to the IT classrooms, I learn something very new, which, it sounds a very simple platform. For example, Prezi. First time I heard, okay, I knew only a PowerPoint. What was it all about? Then students have to say, ma'am, we can make stories out of it. It was a story building one. Those little things. But when I come back, I have to do my homework so that I have to learn how safe it is. How can we bring it into the classrooms? So I think policy is very important, and reviewing it time and again is all the more important, rather than putting it at one place and say, hey, this is my IT policy and we are going to go along with it. This is what I strongly feel.
Thank you. I think that's a very well made point over there. Keep the policies dynamic. It is not that one size fits all. You create a policy, print it and bind it and keep it in your library or in the principal's office. The policy should be dynamic. Revisiting it, reviving it every now and then, maybe once in a quarter, is a great way to go forward, especially when technology is changing so fast and it is influencing the school education so much. Let me go straight to Mr. Kanishk, because he brings in a different perspective here. Kanishk, standing on the same point of do's and don'ts for a tech policy in a school, what is your view on what should be the do's and don'ts for any school to have a technology policy to go forward? Yeah.
Thank you, Chandra. I'll talk about the do's first. It's very important that every school should know about their problems before going for the technology. So if you need a website, you go for the website only. If you need online content, you go for online content part. If you need to create an app for your school, you create an app, get the app created. Whenever we ask a lot of companies, we reach out to the companies. We tell them that we need to, I get queries that we need to digitize our schools. We need digital transformation. We need sustainable digital transformation. We need hybrid and other jargon. But nobody tells us that, okay, we are facing this problem and we need a solution to that. I think before reaching out to the companies, or before even thinking about integrating yourself with technology, every school, every owner should figure out the pain point and talk around that pain point only. That is the foremost important thing that every school should think about. Apart from that, before even after you've figured out the pain points, there are a lot of free tools, online tools available on which you can test, take trials, and get a free demo around it before you integrate it, spend money on it, and get a full-fledged system integrated. So that is one thing that you should do. So any solution that you implement in your school would be as good as the the adult who is taking charge of that particular solution. So assessments and trainings are very important for the faculties before and after the solutions are implemented. We do a lot of faculty development programs with Microsoft, in association with Microsoft, and for these things. And I know how important these are, and how well they how important they are, and how much they impact on the results and end results actually. Coming to the don'ts, the most important don't would be don't spend a lot of money. Trust me, I come from a tech company. You spend a lot of money, I gain from it, of course. but at the same time, I tell you the right thing. Do not spend a lot of money. By how you can do that. So once you figure out your problem, you may have one or two solutions, or you may need one, two, or three solutions to be implemented to resolve that problem. I'd suggest do not get all of them implemented at once. Start with one and then move to another. You'll know if you need the other solution or not. I mean, it resolves a lot of queries, and if you do that, you'll be able to save a lot of money. Do not rely on one company or one solution to fix all your problems. Uh, there will be a lot of tools. There will be a lot of companies who would give you a different solution, who would have a different expertise. Say a company who excels in creating online content would not be that great in creating the technological infrastructure for you. Or a company who is good at getting you admission services may not be that good at giving you a fine learning management system. So that's something that you have to keep in mind before getting yourself um, technologically advanced. And that's that. Just don't feel that any technology is adult proof. We have to make sure that this is something that we need to be trained about. And last would be, do not think that if once you've implemented a solution, this is the last thing that you have to do. The changes are inevitable. Just do not fall in love with one solution. Embrace the changes that are coming in, and I think it's going to be great if you do that.
I mean, I cannot help but tell you, I have met a lot of edtech providers, but not one has mentioned don't spend a lot of money. You're the first one to actually come on public forum and say that don't spend a lot of money. And I'm sure our audience today are going to love it. And they might be coming back to you to design their tech policy. So keep your email and mobile on, right?
All right, I will.
Okay, moving forward, I think there is already a series of questions which have come up on safety and other things. So we will dive into safety topic, and I will go to Ms. Poonam Arora, Senior Principal, for this particular question. Madam, the question from Soni Agarwal kind of sets the context for us when we discuss safety. It starts with the physical safety, especially of the eyes, and then to the mental and emotional safety of children. So your take on integrating technology while keeping it safe.
Good morning, everybody, once more, and thank you for the question. First of all, going by what the previous speakers have been talking about, that integration of technology into our systems is no longer an option. We have to realize that, keeping the COVID scenario in mind, but otherwise also, even before that, schools were moving into that area and exploring. And as Kanishk said, that many such tools and resources, they were thrown at all the organizations from time to time. And we were actually wading through a whole gamut of them and trying to see what will work for our children. But with the COVID, it has become like, now we have to take some decisions and move on and take up some forms of these tools and apps into the classroom, so that now not just online teaching, but even hybrid teaching has come into being. So keeping that in mind, but at the same time, while integrating the technology into our system, we need to first of all remember that the tools need to work for our classrooms, and our classrooms should not work for these tools, which is going to be very, very important. And for that, I feel, first of all, sharing an objective is going to be very important. That all the stakeholders, whether it is the teachers or it is parents or our children, all of us need to understand the objective. And then once that objective, that vision is shared, then all of us can move ahead together. And definitely security is going to be a very, very important aspect of that. And as you're talking about physical safety, I think the first thing in the last 1.5 years, I would have heard maximum number of, cases, complaints, whether it is from teachers who have been sitting for long hours on the screen because teaching is online, planning is online, meetings are online, and research, development, curriculum planning, everything is online. So their screen time has increased many-fold. Same goes for teachers and children as well. And I think here our physical education classes play a very important role. And that's what we have tried to integrate, that first of all, taking care of the eyes. Just sending some videos from, doctors is, to some extent, it might help. But with the children in the actual classroom scenario, when yoga is conducted for physical well-being of our children and for our teachers as well, that's what we had done. We had started yoga classes mornings and evenings, whatever suits the teachers, so that some kind of, they are taking care of their own well-being as well. And then moving on to the security, definitely cyber security, as somebody rightly said, that cyber security policy needs to be in place. And that policy again has to be a shared vision. Everybody throughout the organization needs to understand that policy, its implications, its importance, and its need. Most important is going to be the need is understood by each one of us. Then we can look at authentication, sanitization. We can look at how to secure our passwords. These are all going to be very, very technical aspects, but which maybe the IT team can take care of. But the mindset, that is going to be very important, that as a teacher, as a student, if I'm going to take care that my, just like any other safety, I move onto a road, my personal safety, my physical safety is my responsibility. Same way, if each one of us is able to understand that, even my cyber safety is very important. And then we have drawn out a list of do's and don'ts, shared it with our children, shared it with our parents, shared it with our teachers. And one thing very important, especially with kids, is regular reminders. That's going to be of utmost importance, because this is something coming into practice, something new we are putting into practice. And unless reminders are there, reinforcement is not going to be there. So for it to be a success, that's going to be very, very important. Then, the sessions, webinars, sessions in the sense that where actually you take role plays and you do kind of, what are the fallouts of not following these security measures. If those kind of things, especially for children, are brought into the classrooms, then definitely it's going to help. But I think over and above, it is that those who dare to teach, they need to keep learning. And it is our teachers, first of all, if we'll be able to work with them, because they are as leaders, we can only impact them to, impact them, guide them, but outside the classroom. The teacher is in the classroom, in contact with the kids every moment, and whatever they practice will be observed by these vigilant little children of ours. So I think professional development in that area for teachers, the professional learning, their training, their guidance, and also provide a very supportive environment for everybody to learn. Because we have seen that everybody didn't move at the same pace, and some moved ahead, but what you could actually see was that the hand holding of those who were not moving forward and pulling them along by their own peers. That became the beauty, I think, of the whole COVID scenario and the online teaching learning. And keeping that in mind, yes, definitely the physical aspect is important, that we need to take care of our health with too much of screen time. But at the same time, as Kanishk was talking about certain do's and don'ts before me, so we need to have a clear plan and share it with our stakeholders, which is going to be very, very important.
that the tools should always match our classrooms and not the other way. All right. I think that's a very nice way to tell it. Now, keeping on the topic of planning, I will go to two practicing principles here, Ms. Annabelle and Mrs. Anupama. When we talk about planning, workload management with technology, because we have been understanding that one, as we need to catch up with technology and come on board to implement tools, the workload management and the entire academic cycle planning also goes a big way in integrating technology. So let me start with Ms. Anupama. Your views on how you have used technology to help plan the system and the cycle, and then I'll come to Ms. Annabelle. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Chandrashekar, for that question, and a very, very warm good morning to all my co-panelists and the participants. Thanks to the pandemic, although we choose not to thank the pandemic for obvious reasons, but I think as educators, there is a lot that we have to thank the pandemic for. And because of this unprecedented onslaught of the virus, the technology integration into education was just catapulted into the forefront. Nobody expected, at least in school like ours, where we have very progressive managements, they have been pushing us to push our teachers to use technology in our classrooms. And all our classrooms are technology enabled, but very few of them used it proactively. Like most of my co-panelists mentioned, they probably used it to show a stray video here and there. I'm using the word stray very consciously. And maybe some, they just planned a kind of an assessment once a month or so. So because of the pandemic, all of us were thrown in the middle of a storm. So it was a do or die situation, because of which we were all forced to embrace technology as a way of life, especially for the teaching learning process. And for many reasons, which all of us know about, technology is being portrayed as a divisive force. You know, we are all talking about the digital divide now. But I like to think otherwise, because I'm always very optimistic about things around me, and technology need not always be seen as a divisive force. If used consciously and sensitively, it can be a great enabler, right? Like for example, at the very beginning, when the pandemic was there and we had started our online classes, we noticed that there were many students who preferred not to open their video cameras. And when we got down to actually asking them, we came to know that they were not too proud to show their homes, the kind of backgrounds that they were sitting in. So thanks to technological tools there, like right now I'm sitting in a room where my mother and my husband are kind of walking in and out, but I've just blurred my background and nobody knows what's happening. So, there are so many little things that technology provides with us where we can bring in what we are looking for, that is equity in education, right? NEP talks about that. And we have always been trying to bring in equity in education. And I think technological tools and strategies, if used consciously, can bring in this equity. And I, as an educational leader, always feel that a good leadership model is not in asking our teachers, if I can do it, you can do it, not by saying that. But I feel that a more proactive leadership style would be to say, if I can do it, why can't you? Right? So it's so important for us to find out what are the roadblocks or challenges for our teachers to use technology in the way we want them as a management. So as a management, what we do is we have small self-help groups among teachers, where we have probably one or two teachers who are very empowered in the use of technology. And we have a few other teachers who probably need some hand-holding, a little bit of help here and there, or probably just even asking them once in a while, are you okay? So I think it's so important to have these kind of self-help groups and ensure that teachers do it. And coming to the workload, of course, that, now we are able to actually do more in less time. Right, we are able to divide the academic classes, the post-scholastic classes, and we are able to, in fact, use technology for students who need remediation, for students who need counseling, for children with special needs. And NEP talks about differentiated learning, and I think technology is the best way we can implement differentiated learning. A teacher can have different modules planned for children and she can administer them all together. They can all be in the same classroom, like how we are all sitting, but each of them will be working at their own pace. So technology is here to stay. The faster we embrace it, the more empowered we are as educators and education leaders. And one thing that I want to add to what Mr. Kanishk told also, he has already mentioned it, we have to be very alert and conscious while we are selecting what suits our school. And for me, I feel what works best is any technological strategy or tool that can be used both synchronously and asynchronously. Because in our school also, we have a lot of children who are not able to access these online classes because of various reasons. They don't have electricity at home, they don't have a stable internet connection, they don't have gadgets, their parents are illiterate and they cannot help their child log into classes. So it's so important for us to ensure that whatever we are planning can happen asynchronously also, so that they can access these when they are in an environment that is more enabling and empowering for them. So I think that the workload has in fact gotten better for the teachers, because now they are able to decide when they want to do what. You know, like the PTMs, I remember, all our teachers had to sit till 6 o'clock to meet the parents, but now it is not so. They just send out a mail to the parent and say, when is it most convenient to meet us? And even a Sunday afternoon, 4 o'clock is fine with them. The parents are happy, the teachers are happy, and where parents and teachers are happy, children are bound to be happy. So I think technology can be used to create a happy school environment if we use it consciously and sensitively.
On how we can integrate technology. But on the flip side, before I go to Ms. Annabelle, there are voices which are heard that this COVID pandemic has made the teacher's job 24/7. You know, you got to be available all the time and be there and take care of it and all that. So again, staying on the topic of workload, Ms. Annabelle, how have you encountered issues and challenges in your working environment, and what are your ideas and solutions?
Thank you so much for that. And I want to just extend that many of the points shared by my colleagues here in the panel has already highlighted the need for all of us to reimagine what we do as leaders at the school. So this somehow made me remember the 1987, I think it's VUCA concept. VUCA stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And if we really practice decision-making through the VUCA as a leader of our school, I think we can face anything, you know? So I would like to reflect on that as I look back at the decision we had to go through when we were going online in March last year. And going back to decision-making in the school, of course, we're always seeing my every single member of our school community as the leader who would make the decision, who would, you know, design the protocols somehow, or just all the things that we need to do has to come from the leader. And so that has not been my type of leadership. And I would like to say that I am thankful that I am inspired by the VUCA, that I have started developing leaders, not among my teachers, but among my students. And I think this is one area that we should start looking into. And yes, I'd like to consider myself as a lazy leader, because this way I will just listen to the ideas of my students and then I would go, just go ahead, I'll support you, I'll be there for you, you know? And somehow in the past 10 years of my leadership experience, it has only been most useful, not just for my families, but also for my teachers. So if we really look at that concept, I was just a facilitator of the entire decision making. What I did was, I would say, put it together in a very nice format for my community. And once as a leader, you realize that the power of collaboration can really surpass any difficulty that we face. And once we release the control to our school community, that we are better in advancing at anything that we would like to look into. I want to share with you the hybrid learning protocol that we had to design. And this is not something that is easy to create, knowing that we don't have enough resources around the world for hybrid learning. To be honest with you, every single experience that you've shared, we have experienced, my teachers have experienced. It's easy to read about it, but actually applying it is something that is just challenging for every single one of us. And even those who have been considered to be advanced schools of technology, they don't have the practical knowledge for hybrid learning protocol, even coming back to the school from an online learning environment. So that is when we had to put our entire school community together. So we spent a month to sit down and just discuss why. Why do we have to do this hybrid learning protocol? So we have to really discuss with the students, with the parents, with the teachers, why. And once we had the same page, our own reason, a rationale, if you like, we penned down a rationale, and then we all went and took time to research on it. So the first step is the rationalization. You need to have a very strong understanding, a very strong reason why you're doing anything. It could be coming back online, it could be using that tool, it could be purchasing anything. You need to have a reason why. And that has been highlighted by by our panelists today. The second most important thing is research. And we need to look for valid data that's available all around the world. And yes, we are now past the information evolution. Everything is easy in a click of a button. We can collect all the research available. And from that research, we synthesize what is our assessment criteria? What makes this program successful? So we need to list down what is our assessment criteria. So we start with rationalization. The next thing, we look at the research available. The next thing, we look at the assessment or the success criteria. What will make it successful in the short term and in the long term? And in the end, what are the strategies? For us as teachers, even if I ask a teacher, they are rich with strategies. I don't even have to tell them anything. They can go ahead and run away with technology, but I don't want them to run around headless. I don't want them to waste their time. I want them to think why, and of course, they have to have that research backed up properly, and then they have their assessment, and then they have their strategy. For me, as an educator of the 21st century, I always want to empower my teachers to make decisions. And I think because we are now in a social revolution, it's not anymore back in the day, you know, like our parents would want to work for money to survive. That is what we call the industrial evolution, right? And then we have the information evolution, where everything is easily accessible. We are not anymore the sole source of information for our students. That is where we are right now. But now we are at the forefront of something called social revolution. How do we develop a community of learners? What is the true essence of collaboration? So that's what I'm exploring right now. How can I bring in all of the members of my school community in any decision making as a leader for a K-12 school? So that also brings in to the identification of workload implications. So I would like to just share that by providing this comprehensive educational technology platform that bridges the digital divide for my teachers, it empowers my teachers with individualized learning paths. And it stems back again to my belief that when we come together as a school community, many schools can begin to create what we call a community of practice, where the school leaders, there's no definite responsibility for a leader, for a student, for a teacher. Everybody's just coming together, sharing a vision and working towards 21st century learning. So of course, this does not only limit to my school community. I also challenge my teachers to go beyond Lancers International School. I want them to connect with another community. And we are so happy that we were given a chance to work with the Delhi Board of School Education organization, teachers, and work with them about, empowering their students with just inquiry learning. It may not be based on a specific technology tool, but we have a goal, and that is, how do we develop inquiry? How do we develop a student-centered learning culture? So our teachers are doing this, what we call professional learning communities, and thank WhatsApp. It was so easy to just create that WhatsApp group, and they were able to just share resources with them openly, and they were able to help them sort their practical issues. And what's wonderful about that is it's contextual, meaning that we are in India, we are working on issues that we're facing currently. And there was even a moment where Zoom, I think, broke down sometime a month ago, that all Zoom, providers, I think so, in India just went black out. So we don't know what happened for about an hour. So we had to easily shift to another tool to be able to collaborate with our colleagues and outside of our schools. So with that, I'd like to just end that information is abundant and accessible with the click of a button. Teachers are not consumers of knowledge anymore. Students are not consumers of knowledge anymore, but they're creating valuable resources that can be used by others around the world. The most valuable resource teachers have, though, is their time. This is why it's important to develop strategies that help them maximize their learning opportunities while taking into account their own goals, aspirations, and needs. This way will not only ensure effective use of technology within our schools, but also make sure that our students are better prepared to face 21st century challenges. Thank you.
Thank you very much. From the VUCA world to your research, rationalization, assessment, and strategy. I think the takeaway for us is time is the resource which we need to protect, and that's the only resource which matters in the end. And we need to take care of all of our stakeholders' time. Well, so now we go to the next leg of this panel discussion, where we have got questions to answer from our audience. In fact, there are a lot of questions on different topics which we have discussed so far. So what I have done is mapped a question to each of the panelists, but that does not stop you from answering the other questions. You can feel free to go and type out your answers, as Mrs. Anupama has just done for one of the questions. So feel free to answer that. But let me start with Ms. Shalini again. And this question to you is from Bhumika. What's on the rise in EdTech right now? And what should we be keeping our eyes open for? Because you started with intent. You started with how do you use the technology? I think that question is right for you. So please feel free to share your perspective. One small disclaimer, let's keep the answers pointed, short, so that we can cover more questions. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think when you come to, what's on the rise in terms of naming certain platforms or apps, I would say, say the school's need is of utmost importance. And what Annabelle spoke actually summed up the entire session very well. The teachers are the ones leaders, and the students know a lot and they can do, it's just showing them the way. It's based on your school's need. What's on the rise, you should look out for a technology which is student-centered, which is not just, one-way information, but which helps them think and move forward, which helps them collaborate. I'll give you an example of our Maple Bear schools, where we have come up with a little website on sustainability, where it connects all the schools across the globe. So we have around, across all the countries, and teachers can just, it's like Facebook request and make friends, and the students work on UN sustainable goals based on their age appropriate classroom. So the children learn to know about, what's happening in other countries. They connect with students of other countries, and they work on, it could be a simple goal as water or any other resources. And they understand, beyond their own limit or beyond their own area. And that's where it's expanding the horizon. So technology as schools, we should look, one is to make things simple. I'm not talking about operations. School operations is one thing. When you use technology for fee collection and all those things, that's different. But when you use technology as an enabler, you have to see where your students are, what your school's need are, and what you want to do. I would say it's always going beyond, collaborate, let the students have, see the world. Technology is an enabler, it's a window to the world. use tools. There are a lot of tools which are available free. There are a lot of tools which you may have to sign up. We use technology for, as you know, for training our teachers across the globe. So we use technology to, help parents understand what we do as student-centered learning and be a part of the research or the process. So there's no specific thing, but the school should look at using technologies as enablers, as window to the world, and then decide for themselves what they want to bring in.
Sure, thank you. I think that's a good way to tell technology is a tool, and what's on the rise in EdTech, I think it keeps changing every 2 months. So we need to keep our eyes and ears open and keep going forward. The next question is from Usha Rani, and I would like to ask Mrs. Anupama to answer that. How to integrate feedback of students on a timely basis to enhance the teaching efficiency or efficacy? Without feedback, the entire process will lack efficiency.
Yeah, I completely agree with this question, and thank you for that question. Not only online teaching, any process needs a very, very active system of feedback also to improve. And I think it's more critical to get critical feedback on how online classes are going on also. And another, a part of my answer is that the best feedback is to involve all the stakeholders in decision making. The management, the school leader, the teachers, the students, the parents. Since all of them have, stake in this process, it's always good to involve them in the decision making process. And a structured, timely feedback system should be there, not random, because we all know how our teachers are being harassed by daily feedback. Parents are literally sitting through their classes and giving them feedback every minute and every hour. That is not going to work. There should be a system for feedback also, because we need to hear each other out. We cannot completely shut off the feedback system, because sometimes it may not be pleasant for us to know that when we are putting in so much effort, it is not being being effective. So if we want online classes like any other system to have a positive impact, we should also plan for how we are going to receive the feedback and how we are going to work on it. So feedback is very, very necessary, and we should take it at regular intervals.
Thank you. I think timely and structured keywords there to keep feedback system in process, and it should be double-sided or two-sided, so that it is effective and listening. All right. So Deepali Mishra comments on Mrs. Debika Chatterji's introductory remarks, as when she was mentioning that in a few months, schools might move to teaching learning in a physical class. Please give your view on how hybrid learning can take help and care of students desirous of learning at their own pace. Mrs. Debika, do you want to add on to that?
Yeah, just that whether it's hybrid or not, learning is an individual process, and it always happens at an individual space. The only difference is that in the hybrid world, things have become a little more, they have been highlighted by the fact that we are now in their homes. We are now looking at a teacher teaching a class with an audience of parents at any time and all times. However, when we talk about individualized learning, I think there are so many wonderful ways of doing it in the classroom, on an online platform, in a hybrid classroom. I can give you many examples. We can start with something like flipped classrooms, where children go ahead and understand at their own pace, at their own level, and then come back and share it with the teacher and take things forward from there. We have so many reading programs in our own school. For example, we have these, I would share the example of reading chains that our librarians and classroom teachers use, where each child's reading level is decided by the child and the teacher on an individualized level, so that each one takes the journey on their own. There are so many wonderful apps which help us to individualize learning. I think that is one of the great boons of technology, where you can take a math game and each child can progress in their in that particular math game based on their understanding, based on their level. Hybrid learning, in-school learning, online learning, everything has to be geared towards the individual learning journey of each and every student in our school. And it is our responsibility as educators to find more and more ways of making that happen. And I just shared a few that we already use in our school. Thank you.
I think there are two interesting questions for all of you to type in your answers. I will just read them out. You can go ahead and type the answers there. One question I think is how to handle failure, technology failure in a class or during a class. So I'm sure each one of you have your own ways of doing it. Second, staying on the topic of hybrid learning from Gurpreet Kaur, requesting the leaders to share if they have any thoughts on implementing hybrid learning. So each school must have implemented it in different manner. So I would keep it open for all of you to answer it by typing. All right. Now let me come back to another question to Mrs. Poonam. And Mrs. Poonam, your question is again on the child safety and to staff safety. I want to add on or seek your inputs on this. Children are affected mentally and healthy when they are attending online classes. So what to do for their well-being? I'm trying to complete the question. So online classes, the load is too much on their minds. So that is one question. And I also want to add another question to this while you answer. Another question is from Sony. I think that question has already been answered. Let me pull it out. 1 second. Yeah, teachers' time and the impact of excess time on psychological and physical well-being of teachers. So both students and teachers, if you can give your perspectives, ma'am. Over to you.
Yeah. See, in this time of, again, COVID time is there, and a very, very different kind of learning experiences are there for kids as well as for our teachers and everybody else too. And it is very important that their well-being is taken care of. Because learning can happen only when there is a positive and reinforcement and a positive school environment. Here we'll say an online environment. And for the well-being of the children, as I was sharing, for the physical well-being, whatever we are doing with the PE classes. But apart from that, a social emotional learning curriculum, which we schools have nowadays, has taken a different approach totally in this COVID time. Initially, when they were in school, whatever the requirements, age appropriate, those were getting discussed with the kids. But now we have a very well chalked out social emotional learning curriculum for our children, where the class teachers, along with the counselors, regular sessions are being taken. We have to understand that the child can learn the content from the textbook, from Google, just at a click of a button. All the information is available. But are we talking about education or are we talking about literacy? Yeah, when we talk about education, holistic approach is going to be very important. And that's what at least I'm implementing in my class, in my school, is that I tell teachers, even a particular concept, you are giving it a lesser number of hours or doing it lesser and allowing kids to do it on their own. But your social emotional learning curriculum, that is being chalked out and has been designed along with the teachers, make sure that complete justice is done to that. Because children, one thing, there is no social interaction with their peers at all in the last 21 months. And it's a big loss for our children. If we look at our kindergarten kids, they have not even seen the school and the playgrounds and their peers and their interactions. They have missed out so much. And other classes as well. 2 years is a long time for any child to be missing out on these social experiences. So one thing is, our focus should be on that how the emotional quotient of the kids is taken care of. Even when we'll open hybrid, or when we did that, our first few days were only focused on looking at, allowing kids to speak, allowing kids to interact, share their views, share whatever they wanted to, because they had not seen free interaction was there. And also teachers were trained to observe anything which might give us a clue that things are not okay in the small world of the child. Back home, he has been for so many months, and so teachers in tandem with the counselors, they chalked out a checklist for the children. So they were observing the kids. 8th, 9th, 10th has only opened up. They observed the kids and the checklist was there, and a survey is done with the kids. And from the survey, if we notice that something untoward is mentioned by the kid, then immediately plan it with the counselor, so that a one-on-one online session or a physical session, whatever is convenient for the child or comfortable for the child rather. So those things have to be well planned out. So student well-being, and again the co-curricular subjects, those are going to be equally important. We can't cut short, we can't say that let's not do music, let's not do art, because these are ways of expression for these children. And if we'll cut short, keeping in mind that paucity of time, or out of 6 hours that we were doing, now online we are doing 2.5 hours. So we shouldn't be looking at cutting out on these kind of platforms where the child has a chance to express himself or herself. So that's going to be very, very important. And same goes for teachers as well, that a happy teacher brings in a happy classroom. And if I'm going to respect my teachers, I can expect the same from her in a classroom for each kid of hers. But if she's not experiencing that from her own leaders or teammates, there is very little chance that she will be able to reproduce that kind of an environment in her classroom as well. So a balance between the home and work is the responsibility of a school leader, because as somebody said that we are almost working 24/7 in an online school, but it is our responsibility to see how we are creating that home and work balance. Then providing opportunities for teachers also to express themselves, to be able to say I don't know. This is a very, very important aspect of the future schools that we are preparing, and now that everybody is able to say I don't know without any fear, and with the confidence that somebody is there who will take care of my needs and prepare me for my class as and when required. So that kind of confidence in the teacher. And I feel a very, very important aspect we should not overlook is the fun aspect, because we get so serious with what we are doing. Sometimes the fun aspect of things, whether it is the teacher training, whether it is the student learning, if we are able to incorporate that fun aspect into things, that positive environment and culture is there incorporated, if that we are able to create, I am sure that whether offline, online, hybrid, learning has to continue. But for it to be a fruitful experience, all stakeholders need to be equally involved, equally taken care of, and equally equipped, whether it is parents, teachers, or students. As somebody said, parents are happy, teachers are happy, kids are happy. Definitely, because adults otherwise end up, if I have not experienced something, it's very difficult for me to give it to somebody else. So as I think as leaders, that is going to be, teachers are great learners, they learn. Kids we have been born with technology, but as leaders we just need to take care of the mental and emotional well-being of our students as well as teachers. And then I feel that we are on the go, and nothing is going to be impossible. And hybrid, online, offline, all experiences are going to be great, because that we owe it to our kids. We can't shortchange them in any way on that particular aspect. Thank you.
Valid that we cannot shortchange children given the scenario and whatever may be the cause. Let me go to Mrs. Gayathri now, and also to Ms. Annabelle. Well, I know that you have been active and busy answering all the questions, but I will try to stop you there and ask these two important questions. One, or rather, both the points will be on the same thing as to revising the curriculum. Now that the students have started coming back to the school and there is enormous pressure from the parents to rework on the curriculum. So what are your takes on handling this piece of the schooling system, revising curriculum in a more effective manner, integrating technology? So both of you, let me start with Mrs. Gayathri. Yeah, you can start, ma'am. Can you unmute and start?
Yeah, thank you. We couldn't hear you, Chandrashekar. Sorry. The last. Okay. Yes. This is a statement, I think, as leaders, we have been hearing, what is that when children are coming up? They've already lost 6 months of time. How are you going to complete it? Because they're coming physically. There is, it's not only on the academic part of it, also the well-being, as all of us have been speaking about it in the forum. Keeping all that in place, what we actually did in our school was we had put in place what has been covered as a conceptual understanding till now, and then moving forward, what it could be covered as. Okay. At the same time, we have also made very clear to the parents at this point of time, what has been missed in this 1.5 years is those physical education, the dance, the drama, the art that they have been missing takes in priority more than the math and the language. Since math, language, and sciences have been, could be covered at least a 70% of it, I would say, in an online teaching. Wherein the other parts that we have been talking about was a challenge at the time. Though we had a physical educator standing here and doing the exercises and students doing it the other way, it's always different when you come physically into a field and run and play a football as a team. So those curriculums take in priority. So arts, sports, drama, these things are taken in priority into the curriculum. And my parents have agreed on saying, yes, it enhances the well-being and the mental stability of the students too. Though, keeping that in mind, as I said, we didn't leave the language and the math and science. It will go as a normal process, but the priority is always given to these subjects in focus in our school. This is what we have planned right now. And with hybrid model coming in, yes, I think some of our delegates have been talking about it, but what we had followed is when we started with 9, 10, 11, 12, it was a little easy because students were well aware of what hybrid model is. Children could focus on one particular person wherever they had moved, because the teachers in the physical forum and the students online were sitting in just in front of the laptop, wherein those who are into the classroom had been working with whatever activity that has been based on. So it was a challenge. So we had implemented few things like, and there is, the speaker, he has a speaker, the teacher has a speaker which enhances the speaker to move all around the classroom, talk to one-on-one, taking in consideration of the students who are there into the physical classroom as well when we are working into an hybrid model. Also, during the presentation, there are 2 teachers at a time who can help the presenter to present a screen and to focus on the teacher who's teaching, and the other children are working both ways, online as this. So hybrid model definitely had worked well with us with these systems in place. Though it didn't work, the same system did not work with me for grade 2, 3, and 4. Since, children were out of focus when we tried to do the same with the younger students. Probably I'm still working out something that would, work well with the hybrid model for our children.
Your take?
Yes, thank you so much. So, of course, I always want to believe that we are very much accountable in the development, academic progress of our students. And as leaders, we have to always keep in mind that we cannot say that we're not able to do what we have to do. We have to be 100% no matter what. I think if we start thinking like that, then we can find better ways to achieve the expectations for us. I think that is the main reason why our schools are given the license to run its program, because we are expected to be accountable for that progress. So that is something that I think I want to start with before I respond to a few more ideas here. And then I want to go into the concept of revising the curriculum then. How then can we incorporate everything that we've learned during the pandemic? Again, I want to go back to my rationale, and my research. And I also want to add here the data that I have collected with my teachers. Every month we have something called data meeting at our school. And yes, it became easier for us to look at every single student's progress online because of the availability of Zoom and all of the online tools easily, even on a weekend. So teachers don't need to come to the school, right? So even for just 5-10 minutes easily, we can just talk to each other. What do you think about this child, this and that? And what has come out, which is quite surprising, and I just want to share this with everyone, is that many of our teachers find that the kids are actually progressing faster somehow. So we cannot pinpoint what it is. Is it the independence of learning? Is it the ability for them to acquire the information easily? Is it that their parents became support teachers somehow? Is it that everybody was just more focused on developing, the understanding that the child seemed to be progressing faster than traditional ways or face-to-face instruction? So we still don't have enough data on that, but that has become the overarching, I would say, generalization from all of my teachers. So the students are actually progressing very fast. So I think we need to look into that. Is it that we are, our curriculum is not as challenging anymore? And yes, we need to revise that to incorporate everything that they've acquired during the pre-pandemic, or that we also can incorporate a lot more system development as a school. What else can we look at with regards to feedback? Because now that the teachers can easily provide the feedback on the Google Classroom, can easily type up wherever they're available, and that willingness to give that feedback has become much more at the forefront of the learning, that I think that has supported the quick progress of our students. And I just want to share with you that, of course, we are an IB school, so we are more focused on uncovering than covering. So we don't actually have a list of tick points that we have to cover. So maybe this may apply to you. We realize that the children are much more challenged to take action, that they are extending the learning beyond what the teacher demands them or requires from them. And with that, they have become much more, I would say, independent in their learning, to the point that many of them have competed in international examinations and have come on top of that. And I would say, or maybe my teachers are limiting their progress then, you will have to think like that, because now when the kids are given that independent time to study, that they were able to even look at the study guides themselves, look at other support materials to understand what's in the study guide. The examination sample papers were there available for them openly, and they were able to have more time to look at areas, as opposed to when the teacher would say, okay, hold on a minute, today we're going to look at chapter 1, tomorrow we're going to look at chapter 2. That type of structure was there before, and maybe I'm just saying this to you like a realization, maybe, that with that kind of structure, the children run away faster than we demanded or expected them to do. So it all goes back again to bringing everyone together and just see all of this data, look at, what has happened, and cannot dismiss our experiences as people. I'm sure I was just responding to one of the questions on how can we bring our parents on board. I said there was already that sense of urgency. They had no choice. They are the only ones who can open the computer for us. They had no choice. And even if they turn off the camera, making the roti on the sideline, they were listening to the instruction of the teacher and somehow helping their child the way they communicate with the child at home and say, this is what mom said. Or maybe for our language learners, they started translating it to them, which somehow shortened the translation that the teacher needed to do for children of second language learners. So all of that is just everywhere right now, for me, at least in my thinking. And what I recommend we all do is just come back again and bring our community together, create our protocol on our curriculum and review our curriculum. Are we allowed to review our curriculum? Are some areas obsolete? Are some areas to be enhanced as per the next academic session? And I also want to pause a moment and tell again, some of the questions were there with regards to, the fear that you are not able to cover the curriculum. That's going to be there. And that's a relevant point to consider. But always remember that you cannot run too fast right now, that you have to pause for a moment and build again that sense of belongingness. And I just want to share with you an experience with the primary school. Like ma'am said, that the kids came without nursery or kindergarten, they just went straight to grade 1. They did not have the routine of going, waking up, or bringing their materials to the school. And there was even a child who did not know what was going on around, and was just running around, went to the senior school department, just didn't know what a school looks like. I'm sure you are aware that when a new mom would come, a new mom would start exploring going to a school, that new mom may bring the child to the mall, may start exposing that child to other children. A toddler would have play dates, and then slowly after a year they would start transitioning the child to school. That is not there, for the past year and a half. And because of that, just imagine the skill set of the kids who are coming in the elementary school. I'm just talking about the little ones right now. Just imagine that. So I said, yes, you have to teach them reading and writing and pencil and gross and fine motor skills, but you have to realize that they don't have the routine even to walk properly towards, where you want to go. So just pause for a moment, reflect on what is required by the students in front of you first. At least give yourself 6 months. If you can go faster than that, wonderful, but at least give yourself a rational 6 months to build that community up again. And then you can run away with all of these new technologies that are available to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm sorry to interrupt because we are, I think, way beyond our stipulated time of 12:30.
Thank you.
Some of us have other commitments to get on to other meetings. So, but before that, I really want to thank all of you for contributing. In fact, when I look at the Q&A section, it is 29 questions answered by all of us. I think by far this is the largest number of questions have been answered. So very, very well done, all panelists. A good round of applause to you. I want to thank the attendees for their patience, for their contribution and their participation. And let me conclude with just summarizing the do's and don'ts so that it can serve as a ready reckoner for all of us. Do's: first, get your use and intent right when you're implementing technology. It should be a dynamic policy, and it cannot have that one size fits all approach. Third, diagnose where you are and diagnose your problems first. Then you can come up with a solution. Then you go for assessments and your faculty development programs. Then tools should work for the classroom and not the other way around. I think that's a very, very brilliant perspective. Then is the rationalization, research, assessment, and strategy framework. So this is what I would like to say. Thank you, all of you. Good afternoon. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.